Georgia Democrats said yesterday that the Republican gubernatorial candidates need to stop their extremist rhetoric before damaging the state's reputation as a great place to do business. What is up? Are the Georgia Democrats now the party of business and the Republicans not? I mean, if so, that's kind of a change. Joining me on the phone to discuss it right now is DuBose Porter. He is the Georgia Democratic Party chair. Good morning to you, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good
How's
afternoon.
It going?
Yes, I'm so used to doing a morning show. Good afternoon to you.
It just switched, so that's okay.
That's right. It just switched. Now it's time for lunch. Yeah. DuBose, listen, I feel like traditionally we are all used to the idea of sort of Republicans being the party of business and Democrats sort of being the, free college for everyone, socialists. So what's going on here?
Well, one is they have not been good for business. They are not good for business, and their leaders of Kemp and Cagle are equally as bad. Yeah. What does business want in Georgia? Why did we grow so? Because Democrats believe that business, in a partnership with business, they want well-trained, well-educated, and healthy people in the workforce. The only way you're going to have that is what Stacey Abrams has proposed, which is expanding Medicaid and funding education at the levels that it should be funded at.
So, listen,
that's not socialism. That's good business. That's taking care of people and having them ready for business.
Right.
No, but these two are equally terrible for business.
I'm half joking with you about the socialism. I'm just, I think it's been really interesting over the last year or two, or maybe more now, really, watching some of the issues not only in Georgia, but in other southern states in particular, where these decisions about, so-called religious freedom bills and those kinds of things are...
Which they both now support.
Right. And so these are the kind of things that we know. I mean, we've seen evidence that they drive business away from states. And Governor Deal has always sort of taken a very business-friendly approach. It doesn't seem like the two that are running to replace him feel that way.
They don't. It's like they're the most extreme of anyone. What they did with Delta's the break that we had given them as an incentive to keep Delta here when they were struggling. And that was Cagle. And then Kemp doubled down and wanted to do away with the jet fuel sales tax exemption.
Right.
In other words, to give a tax-free holiday for gun sales. So you would hurt one of the state's biggest employers to get that political point. That is not good for business. Businesses are not going to come into a state that are going to be used to pander by folks like Cagle and Kemp.
Yeah. Now, look, I know you mentioned that on the Democratic side, you're looking at things like education and having a healthy workforce and all of that. But are there also specifically sort of business-friendly items sort of on the agenda for the Georgia Democrats?
Absolutely. We have the most expansive agenda, especially in rural economic development. Rural Georgia was hit hard from the recession and is not coming back.
Okay.
The way that you see in some of the metro areas. Stacey Abrams' plan, the Democratic Party's plan, is how to do incentives all over the state. One of the biggest things is rural hospitals closing. You're not going to be able to attract businesses where you don't have adequate health care. The only way to do that is to expand Medicaid. Virginia, with a Democratic governor and Republican legislature, just passed the Medicaid expansion because of the leadership of the Democratic governor. Now 400,000 more Virginians will have access to health care, most of those out in rural areas. That's what's got to be done in Georgia as well.
All right. Well, talk to me a little bit about the strategy, voter strategy, because one of the things I think we hear all the time in the state of Georgia is that, the urban centers, Atlanta, is a very different audience of voters than, kind of in rural Georgia, and that those folks do tend to be, pro-NRA, pro-gun, pro-Christian conservatism, religious freedom, those kinds of things, or, so-called, I have to do air quotes and say so-called every time I say religious freedom.
Well, you do here, because I live in rural Georgia. I live in Dublin, Georgia.
Okay.
And I'm in that area. But what our people need more than anything is to expand our technical college training, put in the courses for truck drivers, put things that would put nursing programs that would keep people here and be able to provide health care here.
Yeah.
That's what is good for families. And these signature issues that divide people is not what Democrats are about.
Yeah.
We're about bringing people together and giving people the tools they need to be successful.
Yeah, DuBose Porter hanging out with me on the phone right now. He is the Georgia Democratic Party chair, and we're talking about sort of a pro-business stance on the Democratic side here in Georgia this year versus the Republicans that seem just like they can't help tripping over themselves here to send business away for some reason.
Right.
Listen, before I let you go, I want to ask specifically about the statement yesterday. Why this week? Why yesterday? What was the sort of driving force that had the Democratic Party step forward yesterday to make this statement?
Yesterday was the 93rd anniversary of the founding of Delta Airlines.
Got it.
Here. And, you know, it goes back way back to an old dirt field in South Fulton that was called Candler Field eventually, that became this major hub for the airlines where Delta was founded. So on its 93rd anniversary is why we did this. Look, it is one of our state's biggest employers.
Oh, yeah.
Why are we doing things that would run them off? Because they could have gone to anywhere else. It's kind of like during the civil rights time when Coca-Cola said Coca-Cola doesn't have to have Atlanta, but Atlanta needs Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Well, Delta doesn't have to have Georgia, but Georgia dang sure needs Delta Airlines.
I love it. I definitely heard that rural. You said dang. I love it. DuBose Porter, thank you so much for hanging out with us for a little bit today on the show, and thank you for sharing the pro-business stance. I really do appreciate that.